the UFC.
Here we go!
It's like the fastest growing sports organization in the world.
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
And it just might be the most surprising solution to the WNBA's problem.
Who is this guy?
Okay, so we all watch the UFC. Its popularity continues to skyrocket.
See you at the top!
But a couple decades ago, the UFC brand was dead in the water.
You're dead! You're dead!
The company was unprofitable.
Just for the record, that was when we were still $40 million in the hole.
They were struggling to sell pay-per-views, which is like their financial lifeline. And just when all hope seemed lost, Dana White and his business partners come up with this brilliant idea that increased their pay-per-view sales by like 300%.
Surprise, surprise, motherfucker! The king is back!
So how did the UFC, which was on the verge of collapsing, manage to get themselves out of that horrible situation? And what lessons can the WNBA take from that situation to help them solve some of their own problems?
This is not a therapy session.
We're gonna talk about Dana White, the WNBA, and Kim Kardashian?
Get your fucking ass up and work.
Okay, I guess we're also talking about Kim Kardashian. But before we get to all that, let's set the table. We need to go all the way back to like 1993, the start of the UFC. Back then, it was pure chaos. There was no rules, no judge scores, no time limits, and no weight classes. The fights during that time was style versus style. So basically, the UFC wanted to answer the question, who would win if, for example, a sumo wrestler fought against a French kickboxer? Let's just say that fight ended horribly. Due to like the bloody and unregulated nature of the sport, venues began refusing the UFC. They were like, sorry guys, but like your sport is too violent, too bloody, and we really can't put that shit on TV.
This is #1 bullshit.
This made it really difficult for the UFC to grow and become mainstream. And it showed. The financials of the company was horrible.
Don't talk about money, you're broke.
Dana, who was managing fighters at the time, realized that the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. But he didn't want to give up on the company.
This is not over!
So Dana calls up Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, who are like his childhood friends. And he's like, guys, we gotta buy the UFC. And they're like, why? Dana's like, trust me, bro, this UFC thing is gonna be a huge success. The guy running the UFC right now, he's a complete idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. Buy the company, make me the president, and now grow the brand and make us a lot of money. Frank and Lorenzo were like, all right, let's do it. So they buy the company for $2 million and make Dana the president. This is all happening in like 2001. So after buying the UFC, they started implementing rules and weight classes to make the sport more organized, which led to the sport growing in popularity and fighters like Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell to become the prototypical MMA fighters that we see today. However, there was just one major problem. The company was still unprofitable.
He's just another broke bum that can't afford to pay his bills.
At this point, the Fertitta brothers had already invested $40 million into the company, but they still weren't making any money with the pay-per-views, and the brand wasn't recognizable yet. They needed a way to introduce the general population to a niche combat sport. They needed a spark, something that would get people excited. Dana and the Fertitta brothers scraped together $10 million in a last-ditch effort to produce a reality TV show.
There is no substitute for the ultimate is what's in store. Bear witness to the fitness of the modern warrior.
They called it The Ultimate Fighter. 16 fighters forced to live in a house together for several weeks, all competing for a UFC contract. The show aired on Spike TV, and it was pretty successful. However, even with the show's success, the UFC was still hanging by a thread. What the company needed was a massive turnout for the Ultimate Fighter finale in order to maintain their deal with Spike TV. And then, on April 9th, 2005, this happened.
With the knee. Staying in the pocket here is just on its feet. Uppercut just missed.
It was this back and forth war between Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner that saved the UFC and catapulted the company into what it is today, a multi-billion-dollar MMA juggernaut.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
In the months prior to The Ultimate Fighter, the UFC was struggling to sell pay-per-views.
What did you sell on your last pay-per-view? Answer the question, bitch.
The 3 events before The Ultimate Fighter finale, UFC 49, UFC 50, UFC 51, got about 225,000 pay-per-view buys combined. The event immediately following The Ultimate Fighter finale, right, UFC 52, which took place a week later, generated 300,000 pay-per-view buys, making it the first ever UFC event to reach that mark.
Come home with a pocket full of cash.
Since 2005, the UFC has gone on to sell over 90 million pay-per-views and has racked up over $4 billion from those pay-per-views.
We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich.
But the contributions of The Ultimate Fighter didn't just stop at the company's finances. No. It went beyond that. It created superstars.
Dana, 60 G's, baby!
Without the success of The Ultimate Fighter, there may have never been a Conor McGregor.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
All that brings us to the WNBA.
I'm saying pay these women. You need to be paid because you command the same respect. The game is just as good.
Now playing the point for the first time this year.
About the potential for this team that they
The game is just as good.
Will pull up.
It's from leadership.
The game is just as good.
Shut your f***ing mouth.
Okay, let me stop. The point of this video is to offer solutions to fix the WNBA. Many people have offered their own solutions to the WNBA's problem. Some people say that, hey, maybe we should reduce the height of the rim.
Why can't we lower the goal to at least 9.5 feet?
There are even some people out there that think the WNBA should do what other women's sports do and, spice things up.
Break out the red panties.
Look, the problem with the WNBA isn't that the rim is too high or they are sexualizing themselves. Problem is interest.
Getting people interested in the women's game.
How do we get people interested in the WNBA? Specifically, how do we get women interested in the WNBA?
Name a WNBA team.
I don't know any.
Name one player.
Cannot tell you.
Who's your favorite WNBA team?
I don't really watch it. Nothing for that one.
Dude, I don't know. I don't watch them. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know what that is.
The sad truth about the WNBA is that women don't seem to care about female sports.
I don't give a fuck.
But ask those same women to name everyone in the Kardashian family and they will rattle off a whole bunch of names. Women like watching the Kardashians.
Because you're so annoying. Perfect. Then shut up.
Or maybe it's more accurate to say, women like watching drama. So, give it to them. Make a reality TV show geared towards women to get them excited about the WNBA. Just like how the UFC used The Ultimate Fighter to generate interest in the sport of mixed martial arts and grow their organization. And here's the thing, the WNBA, while unprofitable, is in a much better situation than the UFC during its early years. Here's why. The WNBA has two things going for them. The first is that basketball is not a bloody sport, meaning it's more advertiser friendly. And second, perhaps most important, the WNBA is being financially supported by the NBA. The UFC never had that cushion. But a reality show alone won't solve all the WNBA's problems. The reason why the UFC was able to capitalize on the success of The Ultimate Fighter was due to Dana.
I don't give a fuck.
Dana is a ruthless, no-nonsense businessman who only cares about making money. Dana also doesn't care about being politically correct.
I don't give a fuck.
If Dana was the commissioner of the WNBA and the WNBA players wanted more money, even though the WNBA is losing money every year, Dana will probably tell them,
I don't give a fuck.
Whether you like Dana or not, you can't deny that his approach to running the UFC has been wildly successful.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
This is exactly what the WNBA needs. Their own Dana White. Hell, even the NFL has their own version of Dana White. If the WNBA can hire someone similar to Dana White to run their organization, and create a hit reality TV show and make the show interesting enough to a general female audience, then they'll have the chance to do what the UFC did for their brand and become a powerhouse in the sporting world. What do you think the WNBA should do to generate interest in their league? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, hit the like button. I'm out. Bye.